Let's talk about how I made over $5,000 from a single trade and ended with 4,000 on the day, utilizing fundamentals and how you can too. I was only risking around 800 per trade, so these moves were pretty big. And I will explain to you how we can do this in real time and how you can make money. This is actually how I made my first $10,000 month. So we can see when this is on a Friday, May 1st, the first day of the month, and on a Friday. Let's keep that in mind. The market opened 9:30, rips up around 300 point move, and that is very significant, and I'll tell you why. So why did this happen? This is earnings, and this was earnings reports for 5 major companies. And for those who don't know, earnings is basically, every publicly traded company is required by law to report their finances every 3 months. And the 3 prevalent things in this report is their revenue, the total money the company brought in, their EPS, profit per share of stock, and their guidance. This is the most important one. What the company expects to make next quarter, so what their future holds. So before every report, analysts whose entire job is studying these companies publish their best guess at what these numbers will be. And this is called estimates, right? So if a company makes $10 billion, but analysts expected $11 billion, the stock drops. If a company makes $5 billion, but analysts expected $4 billion, the stock shoots up. We can see here that it's not about the numbers, it's about how the company's being perceived, right? So it's, all about, are they going to beat and are they going to actually come out with accurate information and beat these estimates, right? So what were these companies? Well, Wednesday at 4 p.m., Microsoft, Amazon, Alphabet. Alphabet is the parent company of Google, and Meta had their earnings report. And remember when I said this was on a Friday, keep that in mind. So at 4 p.m., these earnings report came out, and we can see on the chart what actually happened. So 4 p.m., 1600 on a Wednesday, these earnings report came down, and it actually shot down. And again, this is very unpredictable news. We do not want to be trading this. We want more confirmation. I'll tell you that's the step 1 with fundamentals. We cannot be trading unpredictable and just gambling out here. We need to have a bias behind our thing. So even though we kind of had an idea that these earnings reports were going to be bullish, we needed more confirmation, and institutions did too, and that's why the move happened on Friday. So it kind of shot up. It was a bit wicky, and then what happened on Thursday? Well, Thursday it actually went down, and why did this happen? Well, Meta's stock actually went down 7%. And why did this happen? Well, their spending plans were higher than expected, and they didn't explain where the AI money was coming from. And there was a bunch of uncertainty, and that is very important to realize. So with institutions and uncertainty, stock usually drops or no moves happen. So Thursday, market opens and stock drops. There was no confirmation that these earnings reports and these companies were actually going to be bullish. But everyone had the idea in mind because they were implementing AI. All these companies had one thing in common. They had historical amount of money invested into AI. And that is extremely important in today's narrative. They were like with AI, if companies invest and utilize AI, their stocks boom. And we can see this time and time again. Within 2026 alone, Amazon, Microsoft, Google, and Meta combined over $650 billion on AI. So we knew that these, the stocks would eventually increase, but we need confirmation. It's all about how these stocks are being perceived. So another thing to realize, Apple's earnings was on Thursday at 4 p.m. So that's very important. Apple's is one of the most important earnings, and a lot of these institutions were waiting for Apple's earnings to come out. Analysts expected $1.95 profit per share and $110 billion revenue. It came in at $2.01 and $111 billion revenue. So again, like I was saying earlier, the stock obviously shot up. And with that being said, we can see that came at 4 p.m. So that was after New York session. So now we realize we have all this information and, the uncertainty, Apple's earnings came out bullish. And we can see that Friday, the market is most likely going to rip up. So Wednesday, keep in mind, Wednesday at 4 p.m., earnings came out for 4 major companies, a lot of uncertainty. On Thursday, it actually ended up, when market opened, it shot down because of Meta. And Meta's, unrealistic spending budget and not explaining where this money was coming from. And analysts and institutions were waiting for confirmation. and waiting for Apple's earnings. So Apple's earnings came out at 4 p.m. We can see right here, 4 p.m. And what actually happened at 4 p.m.? Not a lot, because this was after New York session. So people were waiting, and now institutions and retail traders have the confirmation that the price of these companies are going to increase. So as soon as market opened, we rip up, and we rip up almost 300 points. And why is that significant? That's a huge move. So with these huge moves, we're now at a new level, especially with news. It's not like, with technical analysis, we're not going to just all of a sudden come back down here. We're now at a new level, and price will most likely can continue to go up throughout the week or days, right? So this was on a Friday, which is important, and it was May 1st. Another thing about May 1st is a lot of these companies have a budget that they want to spend on stocks every single month. So that budget resets. So it was May 1st. A lot of companies put in a lot of money into the market, especially with the earnings report coming out and the Iran war. So with the Iran war, there was peace talks while this was happening. So the dominant narrative was that we were going to be bullish. And when this move happens and when we rip up a lot of the times, and especially because we are 80 points away from upper VWAP, companies need to take profit. So we don't want to get in here, and I didn't get in here. And if you wanted to get in all the way down here, it's extremely unpredictable. A lot of times price can be extremely wicky, and we don't have the confirmation we need. And even though we knew price was going to go up and price was going to rip on market open, I wanted more confirmation. So this isn't gambling. This is actually utilizing news for our advantage. And price was extremely overextended. So I had these limit orders placed. I knew price was going to retest. And when price is overextended, that just means like it's super far out of VWAP. And, especially moves like this that happen that are so quick and so much volume comes in. These institutions need to take their profit. These retail traders need to take their profit. So price naturally comes back down, and it fills my one limited order and then wicks me out. I had another one because I realized that price retraced this much, then I can get in, and I can, I had two minis placed that I can almost hit a huge move. And I had my TP all the way up here. And the reason I didn't have my take profit all the way up here is because this was already a 300-point move. The amount of sheer volume that would need to come in for the move to just keep increasing throughout the day would have to be very, very out of the ordinary, right? A lot of the times with these huge moves up, price loves consolidating in this new level, right? So price comes back down, fills me, wicks me out. I already had, because that was my consensus coming into the day, what was going to happen, another limit order set. It hits me and then rips up. It almost wicked me out, and maybe I should have had my stop loss lower, but again, I was only risking around $800 per trade. And I've done this time and time again, utilizing fundamentals for my benefit and making these huge moves. So the Iran war, there was even talks that peace talk that was happening around over here was actually not the case. So that's why we need to be in and out, and we need to have these smoother plays, because eventually, the longer you're in trades, your edge will decrease. So that's why I didn't have, my TP all the way up here. And maybe if there was actual peace talks and that was a legitimate story, we could have been, ripping throughout the day, but it wasn't. But it really doesn't matter what's true or not. Like I said, again, it matters about how it's being perceived by the masses. So with the Iran war, if there's peace talk and everyone thinks there's peace talk, even though there's no peace talk, price will move a certain way. So the dominant narrative was bullish. The dominant narrative was that we were going up throughout the day. And it ripped up. Institutions and retail traders took profit. It obviously had a retracement from that, but we're still in that dominant narrative. We're still in the narrative that price was going to continue to be bullish. So again, price rips up again, and that was still 100 points. So we knew that, the day the price was going to go up. It rips up again, and after this huge moves, price is going to naturally consolidate throughout the day. And then eventually, price closed all the way down here. And you can see that it closed where it retraced to, and that's completely normal. It's in this new level now. You know what I'm saying? It's in this new level. It's not going to come back down here. And when price gapped up on Sunday, it made a lot of sense. We were still in a bullish narrative. And a lot of times with these earnings reports, it lasts a couple of days with these moves. We're at all-time highs too. There's no reason you should have been shorting here. And that's how I utilized and almost predicted my trades through fundamentals. And I hope this video can help you realize that you cannot just be doing technical analysis anymore. If you want to watch my first video about how I predicted the Bitcoin bull run when Trump first got into office and how it really didn't matter about his policies. It just mattered about the masses. So I hope this video was helpful. If you want, ask me in the comments any specific subject about fundamentals we can go over, and I can, make it more in-depth video.